What's up, folks? Look, you're gonna have to work with us this episode because
Whew.
we're tired. There's no lying about this one. We're tired, but
Yes.
we wanted to make sure that we got our review for Victory Road 2020, which was on
Mhm.
Impact Plus last night. We both watched it, but we were just
Yep.
strained, so we said let's do it the next day, and here we
Yes.
are.
Here
And
we
Miranda,
are.
welcome back because you took a
Yes.
week off, had to do some things, but welcome back to the show.
No, thank you so much. You, of course, held it down like always. So I'm just really excited to be back with you, be back with our audience to let everyone know about our thoughts on Impact Wrestling's Victory Road exclusive to Impact Plus.
That's right. That's right. I thought it was a really good show. Very long, but there's a lot
Yes.
I want to talk about. And if anybody's been following our reviews, we kind of like try to trim the fat when it comes down to reviewing the weekly product. But this pay per view here, we definitely want to make sure we touch on each match
Mhm.
at least just a little bit here. So this is definitely going to be a little bit different for most people that watch us. It's going to be a little long winded possibly, but we will do our best to try to get this
Yeah.
as short as we can. So bear with us, put on your seatbelt, and let's talk about Victory Road 2020. Now, before we get into it, people in the comments, let us know. Did you watch it? Are you going to go back and watch it? What was your thoughts? What was your favorite match? And was there any surprises for you last night? Definitely let us know in the comments right now. But first off, before we get into the show, Miranda, what's your overall thoughts of it?
Well, you're right about this. To me, honestly, the show felt a little long, and it may be because this is a very different structure than what we see weekly on Access TV with Impact Wrestling. This was a show packed full of wrestling. But you know what? Overall, I think the wrestling was really solid. I know we'll go into a lot of that in a second. And really, this is an event that is really tying things together as we head over to Bound for Glory. And as long as you kind of realize that's a big purpose of this and how it's supposed to help tie in storylines and matches for the next few weeks, then you absolutely understand the purpose of this and you can enjoy it a little bit more. But I agree, it was long, a lot of matches for kind of a short amount of time, and maybe that's what made it felt so long. But
Mm-hmm.
I would say though that it did a great job of showcasing the entire roster in a way that we don't normally get to see on a weekly basis too. So big kudos to Impact for being able to show all aspects of their roster.
Nothing to add there. You're absolutely right. So let's get into match one, which was the Rascals versus Triple XL. Now, I've been kind of harsh on Triple XL. Quite frankly, I've been kind of harsh on the tag division, which has
Yeah.
been
Mhm.
drastically improving. And I want to say that this match on paper did not jump out at me, but it
Correct.
was a solid match in the contrast of styles, and I thought that it was really well done. I thought that this was truly the match that needed to solidify the tag division both on the upper echelon and then on the bottom tier. And that's not to say that these people are on the bottom tier, but they're not in the championship picture right now.
Hmm.
And I thought
Hmm.
that this match was a good display as that there's contenders all over. And regardless of the contrasting styles, what the Rascals are high flyers and Triple XL are hard hitter and hard hitting a hard hitting duo, shall I say?
Yeah.
It worked well together. Something I didn't see coming, and in fact, I was thoroughly impressed, and I thought that they were all working on all cylinders, and the match was very cohesive together, very well done. Which is for me, I typically don't see unless the styles are the same. Like for instance,
Yeah.
like if you
That's
if
fair.
you the Rascals work sort of a lucha style, and you're not going to quite frankly put a lucha with a bruiser and expect the match to not go lopsided or for like
Yeah.
a squash or some sort. And it wasn't. They both were very competitive, and this could have went either way. But I gotta say, for my last thoughts on this is that the spot by Dez at the end with the backflip, the dude is just unbelievable, and he really defies gravity. And I love the finish. I love that spot, and I love the finish of them picking up the win. So overall,
Yeah.
good solid match, a good solid wrestling
Mhm.
match to start this
Yes.
pay per view off.
I agree. On paper, this one doesn't sound too intriguing. Team Triple XL has been back and forth, I think, between the serious bruiser tag team to kind of a comedy bit through Wrestle House. And this one, we really just got to see them wrestle and see their wrestling capabilities and how well actually that was in contrast to the fast paced, high flying aspects of the Rascals' wrestling
Hmm.
style. And absolutely, the last minute, really, Dez shined. That Pele kick, that, I mean, it had an audible hit to it. Like, that was insane. I remember just gasping, like, oh my God. It was actually a great showcase for him getting the pin as well. And again, reestablishing your tag team division, having teams that haven't been in the ring with each other for quite some time, and it showed that they have a solid tag team division. It's really the matchups and how they work in the ring that's going to really help this tag team division continue to elevate and grow. And I'm not surprised if the Rascals got the win. I feel like they are moving closer to tag team title contention, but they have a body of tag teams that they have to work through, which we'll talk about in a second. But
Yeah.
a really enjoyable first match.
Yeah. Going into match 2, the Battle of New York, as one is calling it. Tommy Dreamer versus Brian Myers. I'll let you start off first here.
Yeah, again, I'm continuously impressed by Brian Myers' wrestling. We have not seen this much wrestling from him in his entire career. So I'm continuously impressed and almost surprised, even though he's been a veteran and he's been wrestling for so many years. I thought he overall had some really good chemistry with Tommy Dreamer. There was a few types of tricks Tommy brought out of his bag that we weren't expecting as well. So Tommy Dreamer is an established veteran in Impact, but I've loved the chemistry that he had with Brian Myers. I have to admit, I think the match went a little too long. I wasn't expecting it for it to go as long as it needed to, and there was a lot of hiccups with those pins, and that was something Madison Rain kept commenting on commentary, was that there was some sloppy pins, there was some sloppy ring awareness, and that I think took a little bit away from the match, and I think was a little bit long when you look at the whole aspect of the entire night. But you know what? It's another win for Brian Myers, which prior to this, he had a career of all losses. But I think it's going to be important next to see where he goes with this, and I think he has to have not only another win but another meaningful win in the column. I don't not necessarily put anything down on Tommy, but he is a veteran and a legend within wrestling. But I think beating him isn't going to do much for Brian Myers at this point. I think it's now more about who's next.
Yeah, I am here to say that I do not even remember the persona and the gimmick of Kirk Hawkins. That no longer exists to me. I'm here to officially sign on the line as a Brian Myers fan.
Oh,
So the
all
idea of
right.
not seeing him wrestle in this capacity and him flourishing the way he has just been very entertaining to me, and I've been very much invested. So I am officially ready to sign on the line of being a Brian Myers fan. He's working high caliber matches, both in the ring and videos and the segments outside the ring. He's working on all cylinders. I'm absolutely digging it right now. And I will say that Tommy Dreamer, regardless, he is still really incredible to see him still work at the rate that he's working right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not nothing to take for granted, because like the guy is a hardcore legend nonetheless. So him working a match with Brian Myers with flaws for sure, but to still see him doing the way he's doing, I thought together there was definitely some chemistry there, and you would expect that. But at the same time, Father Time's undefeated, and it doesn't look like it's hit Tommy Dreamer just yet. So I was impressed with how this match was done. But Brian Myers is just solid, and I'm just waiting to see what's next. I mean, I feel like a little bit for me that maybe it was an audition for the fans, an audition for Impact, whatever it may have been. But I'm ready to see the next step moving forward with him because he's definitely has me so. And also, I do not want Tommy Dreamer wearing a bandana no more. It is criminal how that thing was being on his head. I was like, I cannot believe they let him go out there like that. And if anybody don't know what I mean, the placement of his head where that bandana was sitting, it's something that I could not overlook. For somebody who wanted to wear their bandana like Tupac all the time, I'm trying to tell you that banner placement in sectional areas is important.
Yeah, you gotta, you just got to know what works with your body type, and your head type and your face type, and so just go ahead and watch it. Just go ahead and look it up.
So match 3, Rohit Raju, the Defeat Rohit challenge, and this was answered by Willie Mack. I'm gonna start off first here, and I'm gonna say Rohit with the belt. It does look good with him, and I'm loving the gimmick. You have been very much A1 about how this was going to be done. So anytime I see him in the ring, I always have that in the back of my head. Like, I cannot for 1 second fall for the foolery of this being legitimate. Oh. We know he's a weasel. We know he's going to sneak his way out of some sort. Here's what I'm ready to say. I love this match. This might be within my top 3 favorite matches of the night because Willie Mack being back in I'm about to say the knockouts, the X Division contendership, because picking up a win's a win, and we were wondering what was going to be next for Willie Mack. So him picking up the win here does play significant dividends for the future of storytelling here, because you can say he has a win regardless. Which at this point now, that gets him back in the mix with other people we like to see. Willie Mack and TJP will be good. Willie Mack versus Chris Bay again, we can definitely work with that. So I thought this was really well done because it kept the gimmick solid for Raju, and then overall a solid match. Now the important thing I want to put emphasis on here is that this was a solid match. So Rohit Raju, his gimmick is not to really work matches. So the fact that you got a legitimate match and it just happens to be an ending that worked for the gimmick, everyone wins here. And I thought it was really good. And I think that what's important is that we've seen the Weasel gimmick all over, where somebody duck and dodges and never picks up victories. And, it works for a while, but I think fans easily get bored of it. So the fact that Rohit legitimately had a match, show he could go, but decided to do something that most of us probably would do if we had the opportunity, and that's weasel his way out of a win just by a count out. Sometimes the psychology of it just makes sense. There's definitely matches where I'm like, I don't know why the champion got back in the ring. Live to fight another day. So I like how this was done. This was really, really good booking to me, and I can't wait to see Willie Mack back in the mix.
I mean, Willie Mack is the type of athlete, wrestler, who we've seen him have matches of people from all throughout the Impact roster, 2-on-1s, all these types of matches, and consistently has fantastic matches. And the fact that he was able to have a great match with Rohit, 1, made Rohit look amazing, and 2, solidifies Willie Mack as one of the best in the business today. And I know what you mean by the word knockout, because I think you were referencing how this match ended, almost via knockout. Rohit.
You're the best. You're the best.
And Willie, knocked heads, and Rohit fell out of the ring, and Willie was in the ring. The 10 count was made. Rohit looked like he may be going back into the ring at about the 8 count. But like you said, I think he realized, what's the point? I have the champion's advantage, which they really played up throughout the match. And he was able to lose, but also keep his championship. So this type of strategy with Rohit is, for most of us would think, hey, that's pretty smart, a more practical way of retaining a championship. But you're also right that, he went into the ring. He's, a really idealizes what the X division is all about. And so I thought the match itself was really, really great. And you added another interesting element. All so far, we've had Trey Miguel, we've had Chris Bay, and TJP all make some noise about their contendership for the X Division Championship. Now Willie Mack could be in there. Does that mean all four of them now get into this ring? Is he just going to finally do all of these types of Rohit, where eventually we may even need to do like a battle royal in order to determine who's point? That may be what it's looking like. But again, I think one of the better matches of the night, and this is a very interesting strategy by Rohit, but it's actually one of the better ones, like you said. It's not necessarily tuck your tail in between your legs and run. He's technically fighting, but the ways that he's retaining his championship and the way that he's playing around with the X division is pretty smart.
Yeah. Folks, I can't stress enough, get you a co-host like Miranda who always has your back, even when you're slacking. Way to pick up the hot tag there. Moving forward, so, at this point now, this is when we got the promo with Ken Shamrock and Sami Callihan, which I thought was a really good promo. I mean, Sami Callihan is at his best when he's able to be in that element. So, I like how they didn't have a match, but they kept them relevant, and I thought it was a really well promo in order to kind of get the gears turning about the future of them. Okay, but going into match 4. Now, this is round 3 of Tenille Dashwood and Jordynne Grace. And Josh, I want to say Josh Alexander. Josh Matthews, I'm telling you, I'm tired of this one. Josh Matthews referenced this as a term I've never heard. Do you know what it was? He kept calling this a something, and I was like, I do not know what that term is. I can't even pretend to act like I knew what it was.
The rubber match?
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yeah, no, that it's a very popular term in wrestling, or even I think in other types of sports when you've had one-on-one competition. Essentially, if you've had your one competitor win the first match, another competitor win the second, third is considered the rubber match. So who ultimately is going to bounce and be the person who's going to claim overall victory in a series of fights.
I swear I've never heard that term. I know somebody's going to come for me for that. I've never heard it, and that's cool. Now I learned something new. So, hey, you can't know everything. But yes, you can take this match first.
Yeah, this was a fun match to watch. You knew that there was going to be something in this that, even though that they were really pushing this as the rubber match, that the final time that they were going to do something was going to happen, and it was going to be with the involvement of Caleb. Tenille came out though looking like really $1 million, but Jordynne came in really determined to get this win, and she went for it right away from the opening bell. And again, I think too that Jordynne Grace, her athleticism and her strength are really something like we don't have in women's wrestling in any company. So they really picked up on those aspects as far as what Tenille had to really watch out for with Jordynne's strength. But at the same time, the distractions were happening with Caleb, and that just drew away Jordynne's attention from Tenille, and Tenille knew exactly what to do with that and capitalize on that for the win. I think that was more of the essence and the presence that I kept feeling throughout the match, even though it was really solid and great wrestling. There was always this looming feeling that something trickery, was about to happen. And that was kind of the anticipation. In some ways that I talked about with like Brian Myers and Tommy Dreamer, this match was fairly short, and it was kind of surprising that they did that. But again, I think because of it was all really, especially for Tenille, I'm sure for her, she didn't get paid by the hour. She wanted to get in and out and, completed with this match right away. So Tenille did get the win with this, but I have a feeling that there's still something that's not over yet because of the fact that this win wasn't really fair and square. It was done with a distraction.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my thoughts really quick. I felt that Jordynne Grace came into this match looking intense, just a little bit different than we usually see her. And I think that, that adds to another layer of storytelling here. At least that's how I felt. I felt like she looked more intense. But the one thing I didn't understand was how they was selling the height factor so much, to the point that I had to go look this up. So Jordynne Grace is 5'3", and Tenille Dashwood is 5'5", and if it's on the internet, that means it's true. And I'm a little skeptical of that because I think Jordynne may be 5'3", but Tenille may be a little taller, but that's what it says. But that's 2-inch difference. And they're making it seem like this is a huge height difference here. That really isn't. And some of the spots they were saying, Jordynne shouldn't try that. She shouldn't try to execute that move because maybe she's trying to, in other words, bark up a tree that's too big for her because of the idea she can't really do it because Tenille's too tall. Whatever. There was just a lot of that happening that I was wondering what was the significance of doing that. I mean, if that's some way to try to boost some type of doubt in the viewers for Jordynne Grace and her strength, it wasn't selling me. And in fact, it gave me more questions. So I wasn't totally sold on that selling factor. But nonetheless, the two ladies did an amazing match. Jordynne had a little bit of, I won't say wardrobe issue, but a little bit of hair issues that was going on. And I can imagine that something like that potentially could get into somebody's head personally. Because, it is a wardrobe thing. So I felt like once the first time it might have happened, I also felt like something clicked in a positive direction with Jordynne, where I felt like the intensity kind of bored up more. And maybe that's for storytelling, maybe that was just personally, but I just felt like I really liked the aggression that Jordynne Grace put on in this match, and it just continuously grow. At the same time, Tenille, her nonchalant attitude also started flourishing more and more and more, and that tells you the two gimmicks between the two people, and it just worked here. Caleb with a K is annoying, but it works. And it works because the whole selfie thing, and it's just, overall, look, it was just, the two of them brought the best of each other out in a shorter time. It was good storytelling, and I am curious to know what goes on next here for Jordynne Grace. But overall, I thought this was just a really solid pay-per-view quality match from the two ladies here. So definitely kudos to them. Now, I want to go to the next match now. The match I probably had the most questions going into this match. And that was Reno Scum versus the Bizarro World, Heath and Rhino. To be honest, this match did not do anything for me. It really didn't. The match itself did nothing for me. But immediately after the match, and I love how this was shot. Immediately after the match, how they cut backstage. First of all, Scott D'Amore has just been killing every segment that he's been on. Believe it or not, I am not a fan of managers, GMs, owners, whatever you are, of any authority getting a lot of screen time. Sometimes I feel like it imbalances characters here. Scott D'Amore has been the added bit of whipped cream on top of every piece of pie that's been happening. If it's with Moose, if it's with this, it's just been so beneficial to the story that I super, super love this segment so much that I forgot about what happened in the match. But I thought it was a really good segment, and a good segment for obviously Heath and his employment. Now that he solidified the job, please Heath, become someone else. You have done everything you had to do in Bizarro World Impact Wrestling, Heath and Rhino reunion. Please become someone else. That's all I got to say there.
Wow. Now, all very fair points. Again, I somewhat agree with the match itself not being something that I was even really looking forward to. I thought overall, again, it was a great showcase of the tag division. Reno Scum, we don't see have a lot of in ring time. And so they are a great solid tag team, and you really got to see the chemistry between Heath and Rhino. That is one thing. You did kind of see Heath more of this blumbling, guy who had some trouble finding, his tag partner, which also then emphasized, Reno Scum really beating the life out of him. So I get why they did that, but it also made Heath look silly in the ring. And like you said, we've seen that Heath later before. We've seen that Heath for years. We want to see a Heath that is ready to compete and not so much, a funny haha guy. It's no, I came really here to wrestle. But I absolutely agree with what you said about the ending of that match and the behind the scenes segment with Scott, because you really did feel motivated, or you really felt the just like this happiness for
Absolutely, the
Heath, that
payoff.
his
Yeah.
efforts for getting with the company. Yeah, we got that from that segment. So definitely feel a little bit more tied to Heath. Good for him. But I agree. I actually loved when he first came to Impact. And that first, just jump in segment, and his attitude when he very, very first came up, that is the Heath I want. I don't want this
Mm-hmm.
Heath that we've had over the past few months. I want a more serious Heath. You can always
Mm-hmm.
pull in the comedy when you need to. He's great at that. Not everybody is. That's a special talent and skill. But now that he's done what he needs to do to get on the roster, now I want to see that intensity build so he could do whatever he can to stay on the roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know you got kids. Time to move on. Also, by the way, and let me not be a jerk here. I would love to see
Mm-hmm.
more of his kids because they killed the
Yes,
promo that they did the week
love him.
before. So yeah, I would love to see that. Max 6 now is Moose versus Trey Miguel, which was announced during the show. So this is a surprise match, shall we say? I'm gonna have to say that I did not like this match. I'm a Moose fan, but I didn't like this match. And here's why I didn't like this match. Because I feel like we know Moose is distracted and he's just trying to get his title back. Obviously, again, conversations with Scott D'Amore, blah, 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 what we've seen earlier in the day, and ultimately resulted in Moose getting this match. Now, Moose looks like a champion. I'm really, really still buying into everything with him, the fake championship, whatever it may be, and just how it's being done. And even him presenting himself as a champion. I'm all for that. But why I didn't like this match is that this was an opportunity for a show that was already long to really, really present a squash match. And the reason why I wanted to see a squash match is because Trey is a legitimate contender. And I did not
Mm-hmm.
need this to be a real match. I needed this to be a squash because I needed to see Moose go off the rails and completely just be enraged because of everything that's happening. This match wanted to further solidify that he was distracted, but we already knew he was. We didn't need to be more convinced that he was distracted. We know all the video and backstage segments that he's having has been all about him being distracted. So we didn't need a match to further prove that. And him obviously losing because of a distraction, we did not need that under no circumstance. I thought it was not done in the way it should have been done. There has to be a real jobber somewhere that Moose could have just went enraged, took it out on him because he doesn't have his championship. EC3 hasn't shown up, whatever. And with that being said, the same token, I'm ready to see EC3 in the ring. It's about time for us to see the mind game stop and for something to really happen. And I hope they don't stretch this to Bound for Glory, but I feel like it has to be done that way. But I would have loved to see EC3 in the ring to some capacity now. He's been one of the hottest free agents now signed to Impact, and now it's like, well, who drafts a rookie player and don't want to see them play? You know what I mean? And or star, or who makes a big free agency sign and that player doesn't get on the court or on the field or in the ring. So like, yes, we're seeing videos of him, but he was also giving these videos before he was even signed. And now that it got story ramifications, like I still feel like I'm seeing a person who doesn't technically belong to this company, like shadowing over it. You know what I mean? I mean, So nonetheless, like I'll say this, like I'm over the distraction thing. They should have had a Rose Jobbers, but I did again love the cinematic video immediately after. They nailed this again, and that was definitely my positive of it. But I would have liked to have seen Moose work a jobber, completely go off the rails in anger with him. Who cares if he won or lost at that point? And then EC3, flash that he's outside in the arena, and then that Moose goes after him, and what happened. But like Trey should not be a casualty of this story. Like that's where I'm just like, I don't get it. So your thoughts?
I agree, and I actually think they shouldn't have had this match. We talked about how long this show was, and it was packed full of wrestling, and most of it really, really great. I absolutely agree. Trey should have not. He shouldn't be a casualty in this. I mean, he already though is one of the most, he's one of the biggest underdogs in the entire company, and he did get the win, but he was getting, the tar beat out of him the entire match. Though this match did give us the line that Moose said right into the camera to EC3 about Trey Miguel. His family's gonna start a GoFundMe because of you, and that made me laugh because that part I got. That intensity. He was almost taking everything out on Trey. But again, I mean, this is Trey Miguel. He's been a top contender in the X Division Championship. You had him competing for the World Championship earlier this summer. And that was something about this whole tone of the match that I just didn't quite get, and I thought was really unnecessary. You didn't need to have this match. You could have had this be kind of a cinematic segment to break up the wrestling that you had throughout the entire night. Now, I do love how it ended with, Moose going into the truck and still playing with the mind games and ultimately having that teaser of the funeral that we should be seeing fairly soon. That element worked for me, but I agree. I think that whatever happened in the ring really didn't add much to what was telling the story between EC3 and Moose. It was unnecessary, and again, too, you're kind of sacrificing Trey Miguel for another storyline that he's not even involved in. Again, he won, but at what cost, really, to him? So I believe this match shouldn't have happened. It was, and of course, it wasn't advertised. It came on the show, and I get, that's a great way to, keep fans engaged and to let them know anything could happen. But when you already have a show as long as you did with as many matches as you do, it's nice to break things up and give the fans a little bit of a break in between matches. They could have gone completely cinematic with this and just continued the storytelling aspect of it. And I think that might have been a better use of time.
Yep. Yep. Match 7 now. Now, this is the match I've been hyped for upon being announced. And this was a 14 matchup, shall I say, where we're getting basically all of the top tag teams in Impact Wrestling, where one member of the team all squares away in a fatal 4-way. I guess that's what this is. Whatever. Battle Royal.
It wasn't really.
It was
because they had to tag in, right?
Oh, right.
In order to be in the ring.
However they label it.
I don't know how you call it, but.
Yeah, but this was the match here. Who's in this now? So you had Ace Austin, you had Karl Anderson, you had Josh Alexander, my man. Josh is my man, and then you obviously had why is his name slipping out of my head? For the Motor City Machine Guns.
Shelley.
Yes, Alex Shelley. Thank you. See, get you a co-host like Miranda. This, when you look around the ring here, look at the talent. How not only do you see these established tag teams, you legitimately see singles competitors. Any of these people can hold gold on any promotion, on any level, both in tag or in singles division. So this was a match that sometimes I'm not really a fan of how these matches get set up, because they're just like, well, we don't know what to do, just throw it all together. But like when you get one like this that just shines of greatness, like I was so excited for this, and this was just really, really cool. A couple of my notes here: Karl Anderson having his own music. I mean, first of all, the Good Brothers are walking advertisement. All their gear, their merch, they having different. They've now it's established that they have 3 theme songs. They have the one together, and they have singles. They each have singles ones. Them coming to Impact made so much business sake for them, and even in Impact Week they got their talking shop day on a Tuesday. They're having a good time, but nonetheless, as much as they're being walking advertisement, they're legitimate, and it just makes so much sense for them to be here and being within this company of all this tag greatness that's in there. Now, I will say that I was a little bit bummed that we didn't get that spot with Madman Fulton get ready to throw Ace Austin. I thought that was actually going to be great, but the ref had other plans and threw everybody's tag partner out. But I can't lie. As much as I love that final sequence by Dez in the opening match, the final sequence of this match was absolutely killer. And Josh Alexander winning, I marked out for it. I won't even lie. I was very, very happy about how this match was booked and just how good these folks are. And just, I was so entertained. And yes, there's ramifications about who's going to be the number 1 tag team in Impact. But right now, everybody's flourishing. I'm just, happy to witness it. I sound like a total fan here. I was supposed to be reviewing this. I'm just like, oh, I love these guys. They're so good, and like everybody's nice, and everyone got like nice ring gear and stuff, and good music. Like these guys are really good people. Seriously though, like there's so much greatness in the ring there. Like there's no denying that this tag division is super firm, and at any moment, if any of this was to ever fizzle, you got legitimate singles competitors up and down the board here. This is just, it was a beauty to watch.
Yeah, I honestly didn't know what to expect when this match started, because I thought that with everything that's been built up over the past few weeks, that we were going to get almost a melee at the beginning. But you know what? Everyone was in control of themselves. Everyone, they actually took their time. It was a bit of a slower pace at the beginning, and then it built up, which, you know what, I can appreciate, because as a fan, you think that, after all of these weeks of back and forth, and, especially like people like the Good Brothers and Ace Austin and Madman Fulton, with big heat and rivalry between them, they didn't just go for it. They really approached this as a wrestling match, because they also weeks at Bound for Glory. Tonight is just to kind of showcase each team and to try and get the upper hand and even do a little bit of damage before Bound for Glory. But I really liked the pacing, which I didn't think I would. I was ready for something to go super fast and kind of all over the place. We did get that more at the end. And, I was also thinking there was going to be a lot of things happening outside of the ring that was going to cause distractions and impact the flow of the match, which we did. But ultimately, with the ref having everyone go into the back and throwing everybody out, at first I thought that was kind of silly, but it ended up being a good thing, because then you could really solely focus on the work inside the ring. And that's really, especially with just the last few seconds of that match, exactly what you needed to do. This was really a pinnacle of what Victory Road is about, building up stories for Bound for Glory, and this is exactly what it did. And also, it was just great North get a win. They haven't been on TV as much as some of these other teams over the past few months, and for especially Josh Alexander to get that pin over Alex Shelley, that too. I mean, one of the best tag teams in Impact history versus the other best tag team in Impact history. I mean, that's really what it came down to at the end. And so that is something that I thought was a great pick.
God, I would give me a singles match between the two of them and let it be worth something. Oh man, I could talk about this match so much more. All right, let's go to the next match now, which was the co-main event, and this was my favorite match of the night here. And this was Susie versus Deonna Purrazzo. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this. And even in my notes, I got like my feelings are all over the place. So for starters, Deonna Purrazzo as a champ is still a sight to see. I'm very still head over heels of the idea of her coming to Impact, making an impact in the way she has, and her being a champion, and definitely making strides very early in the company. And I think as a heel, it's legitimized, and I think people buy into it. I think people like her as a performer, but I think also people believe in her as a champion and as a top heel and face of the company. So everything about Deonna Purrazzo screams to me big time when it comes down to matches. So seeing this match happen, seeing the match on paper, I was like, okay, regardless of how they're trying to book Susie here, we know Susie, we know Su Yung, we know, regardless of gimmick, we know that there's talent here. And they're not selling Susie as a threat. And what's interesting about this is that Deonna Purrazzo is always legitimized, no matter who it is. So, like, while Susie isn't really being booked as a threat, it never gave me jobber vibes, no matter what, because that's what commentary I felt like wanted to make your mind wander into it. And the idea that they never wanted to, they booked it in the sense that Susie was never have a chance, is I wasn't kind of feeling it, but I do get why they had to do it for storytelling wise. But yeah, I have to say that this was a really good match, amazing storytelling, and I guess I didn't know how this was going to be booked. Here's another couple of things I want to say really quick. I love the chemistry between Kimberly and Deonna Purrazzo. I have got to say that I've been wondering, like, okay, what's next for Kimberly? The one that's the really big question mark is, and I would love to see them become Knockouts Tag Team Champions. I feel like their presentation screams, championship caliber for both of them. Instead of her just being, the sidekick, let them both be champ. Let Deonna be double champ if it has to be. I like how them two are just clicking on all cylinders. I mean, and when I say that, not just what's happening in the ring, but the presentation, the coordination, everything is just working. She doesn't look like just a bystander out there. So, for that's worth. Also, was all this idea of like Su Yung may happen. I'm looking for every little indication that Su Yung may become a thing. And I thought, I cannot even believe this, but with all of the cinematic stuff that happened this entire night, we didn't get not one glimpse of anything cinematic with Susie. When Susie hits the Su Yung patented, any of her signature moves, and even when the chair came in the ring, was the golden opportunity for her to just touch the chair and something crazy happened.
Yes.
And you can write off Susie. You could have absolutely wrote off Susie. But something cinematic should have happened here. This was absolutely the perfect time. She should have touched the chair, and the screen just went black, and things just started happening like anything. I would have liked that, because I think that, they're saying, like, they basically wrote Susie off. They're saying we don't know how long till she'll be out. She's definitely her arms out of socket, blah 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 blah. But if you're going to sell so much into the Su Yung aspect, then really sell into it. Don't give us the same patterns of what we've seen on Access TV each and every week, with her hitting her signature moves and say, that's Su Yung, that's Su Yung. But this was your pay-per-view, so go just a little further here. Give us a little bit of the real tease. Give us something cinematic. Give us a zoom in on her face and, like, cut with it with some effects. The technology exists. It was absolutely ways it could have did it. But I will say that this match was a super competitive, good storytelling, and as much as they didn't give Susie a chance, Susie worked a good match. And again, regardless of whatever you think about Susie, that person that's inside, the person that's playing that gimmick, who plays Su Yung and Susie, can legitimately go. Don't get it twisted. Championship, ex-champion, championship caliber, and that her and Deonna, even working in a gimmick where you're not supposed to have much offense, still worked a solid match. So that's just my things with it. Kylie Ray, she can't hide her smile. So, you have super great heel work and super great babyface work in this match. But I would have wanted inject me with a little bit more of Su Young antics if that's what you're selling.
Yes. Oh, I absolutely agree about this. They've really teased it all throughout. Su Young starting to boil up, and even now in Susie's moveset, every time that they saw something that reminded them of Su Young, the commentary was quick to pounce on that. And I absolutely agree about what should have happened after the match ended with the whole chair spot and Deonna using that to. Almost break Susie's arm. That should have been something that pushed it over the limit. But I also understand too that this was also a way for them to help build up Kylie Ray. What was Kylie doing at that time? Well, she was being pulled away by Kimberly and forced to watch. So maybe it was a little bit more about Kylie Ray and her building that kind of anger and hatred to Deonna up and using that fuel for Bound for Glory. Because again, Kylie Ray is Smiley Kylie, and she's friends with everyone and she wants to make people happy. But now we've seen this hopefully shift in her where they taken out her friend, someone that she really supported, someone who had her back. And now hopefully we see a little bit of a meaner streak in Kylie Ray that will take her through Bound for Glory. But I absolutely agree. There was elements of this match, that didn't quite flow with me. I think it was somewhat of a contrast of styles in a way. And there was some moments where that was fairly apparent, and I think maybe a few missed cues, very minor. But again, when you have this being your co-main event for the Knockouts Championship, it just elevates the entire roster. So every match I think is just, looked at with a little bit of a closer lens. But I agree. We should have seen something more alluding to Su Young, and we know we're going to get it now. And this opportunity for them to write her off is one way to do it, but they should have done something more. But I can also see where maybe at this point it's not about Su Young or Susie. It's more of a way to give some fuel for Kylie Ray. And if that's the case, though, then that should have been more of that close-up as her face. We didn't get to see, we saw it more in the background, the facial expressions of Kylie Ray, who was just kind of in shock and horror and felt helpless that she couldn't do anything to help her friend. That is what we should have seen instead. More close-ups of that and more visuals of that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I am going to hand it off to you for the main event, which was Eric Young uh, um, versus whoa. Why am I drawing a blank here now? Eddie Edwards. Thank you. Yes. Because I got so much more to talk about with Eric Young. It is. I got so much more to talk about with Eric Young here. But yeah. So yes, go ahead. Eddie Edwards and Eric Young.
Yeah, the main event, this match was everything that this rematch should have been. I loved it. Eddie Edwards and Eric Young have amazing chemistry. Eddie Edwards still, is somewhat of an underdog, even though he won the world championship. He's been with the company for so long. I do love how commentary played up the parallels in the career now of Eric Young and Eddie Edwards, that they talked about both of them being Triple Crown champions. And they had very almost identical career trajectories, but they split off at some point. And now they're back together and they're very different people. But Eddie Edwards is just, I just love him. He's amazing. The way that they kept playing up him teasing or trying to get the Boston Knee Party in was, I just really liked that. And it was really all over the place too, and now at this point I expect that, because not only are they playing on past history, but also current history. At the beginning of the show, they had a great promo package that showed, kind of the terror that Eric Young has placed on the roster with Rich Swann, with Alicia, and now with Eddie. And so you could see that throughout the entire match, and it was somewhat long, but it didn't feel long because and I really liked this match more than I thought I would. And as I say, I wasn't planning on liking it, but because we'd already seen this not too long ago, I wasn't quite sure what to expect. But I think they took things up a notch with the level of intensity, the level of aggressiveness. And yeah, I know we'll talk more about Eric Young in a second, because he continues to shine in this role.
Eric Young is the best heel working in wrestling right now. First off, this match started off with an amazing video package, and it's not even Bound for Glory, and it felt Bound for Glory tierish because it was really well done, and it really put the story into perspective. This is the 30-minute banger up and down the board with a lot of emotion and a lot of pain. Commentary, like you said, really got their money's worth on this one. They really showed up to it. And quite frankly, it's kind of crazy to think that Eric Young was a free agent not that long ago. Like, it seems like you won't let this type of person just walk from your company because he's so talented. And like, him and Eddie Edwards, as we talked about in the past, having parallel careers, even before selling it in this match, like, we knew this. And the idea that they're putting it on display, now that everyone can see it, now you are really sold, and you're buying into the idea of how these two are almost image of each other, to the point that Eric Young's video promo for Bound for Glory, the one that they clearly weren't going to waste all that money in doing so for him to lose the championship, and now it doesn't make sense. But if you had thought about it, where it's Eric Young versus Eric Young, that could easily be Eric Young versus Eddie Edwards in those video packages. Those are legitimately how similar they are to each other. But yeah, there's no way they were going to scrap that video that they've been running for Bound for Glory all this time just by letting the titles change hands. So we know that wasn't going to happen. But it was just a very solid match, a very good display of wrestling, a classic filled with so much pain and emotion. I liked it. My thing, what I'm about to say here, Rich Swann coming out and selling the injury. No, bro. I like him coming out, but not him limping. I don't think... are you healthy or are you not healthy? That's what I want to know. After we done seen you get medical treatment by Dr. Ross, it appears that you are clear and you're doing good. So you come out and you run down to the ring, you do your little flippy flips and your kick, and then you're selling the limp. I get it how you could re-aggravate it. I get it, people. I get it. But like, again, I think for fans, we need to see with confidence that you can come to that match and stand a chance. Eddie Edwards was injured. Did he sell the injury in the beginning of the match and work it? No, it had to be re-injured. Rich Swann came out and re-injured himself.
Yes, sir.
And so if you have an Eddie Edwards who, I mean, one plus one equals two here, but it seems like somebody's trying to sell me that it equals 3, and I just can't fall for that. So that's just my only thing. I thought overall this was a solid pay-per-view, and like, that's just my final thoughts on that. Anything you want to add to that?
No, I right. It was nice to see Rich Swann come out, because again, they're going to be main eventing Bound for Glory, and we haven't seen a lot of Rich Swann. One thing when your champion doesn't quite show up, but your champion every week push that sympathy, build that support for the challenger if they're never really there. And again, like you said, recovering from a career-altering injury, and the fact that the presence after the match was meant to show that he's ready, but physically, again, those things are not lining up. Those things are not matching up. So it's literally mixed signals that you're sending. For your main event, it's a little scary. It's a little scary at this point. Hopefully they have specific signals that are that mixed.
Yeah.
Do you even have Rich come out at the end? I didn't know if it was that necessary, but overall, a really solid show, packed of wrestling. Really, I mean, a big difference from what we see every week, because they have a limited amount of time, and they interject more story. A pro wrestling fan, and Victory Road 2020 had a lot of great wrestling, showcasing all of the great aspects of their different divisions, their tag division, the knockouts division, X division, all of the singles competitors. It was a great showcase for that. And, now it's really, we are on the home stretch for Bound for Glory. So now every opportunity, every moment counts, because it's leading into, one of the biggest shows of the entire year. And for Impact, one of the biggest shows of their entire existence as a company.
Absolutely. Well, yes, that will definitely do it for our review for Victory Road 2020. We're back this Tuesday for our review for Impact on Access TV. Absolutely let us know what you thought about this show. And, what was your favorite match? And ultimately, I personally need to know, what are you all thinking about this Rich Swann angle here? Do you think he has a chance here? Because as of right now, it's selling me that he doesn't, and for all the reasons I've already stated. But definitely tune in to us Tuesday. The review drops 10 p.m. after the conclusion of Impact Earn. Definitely interact with us in the comments. And as always, stay tuned, stay safe, and we'll catch you all very soon. Big gold bell.